The Tylenol crisis. Donald Trump's false claims and Kenvue's response. Tylenol is back in the crisis communication spotlight. This week, President Trump urged pregnant women to avoid Tylenol and tied acetaminophen use in pregnancy to autism. Claims rejected by medical consensus. According to Reuters, he repeated the guidance in a White House setting and online. Kenvue, Tylenol's parent company, leaned on a classic victim crisis response: measured tone, science-first FAQs, and referrals to doctors, emphasizing there's no proven link between acetaminophen and autism. Now, the numbers before the remarks. Kenvue closed at $18.34 after plunging early in the week. It rebounded and ended Friday at $16.42 for its stock price. In context, Kenvue's all-time high closing price is $25.23. The stock is well below its peak, but it clawed back some losses by week's end as no new evidence emerged. Credible, independent scientific data continues to show no proven link, Tylenol says. They want you to talk to your doctor first. What's the real message here? If you are a company and a pharmaceutical company, and the president of the United States says you're essentially destroying people's lives, that's a crisis. The only good news for the makers of Tylenol is that President Trump has zero credibility when it comes to health. He's a guy who says, inject bleach, don't take vaccines, essentially. He's a guy who says, oh, you shouldn't exercise, and the secret to long living is eating more ice cream. So if you're going to be attacked, it's best to be attacked by someone who has zero credibility on health, like President Trump. Let's dig a little deeper here. Now, when I saw this story, my first thought was, oh, this is Tylenol, Johnson & Johnson. They are sort of the poster boys and poster women for how to handle a crisis well, because way back in 1980, Tylenol had a tampering issue and they had to pull off all the Tylenol from the shelves and put special wrappers and safety devices on, and they got a lot of credibility. And silly me, I completely forgot that Johnson & Johnson no longer owns Tylenol. It was spun off into another company called Kenvue, which kind of sounds like a Barbie character's sunglass company, but it's not. It's a company that makes over-the-counter drugs like this, and they are a separate spin-off company. So I'm guessing the folks at Johnson & Johnson are thinking, whew, glad we dodged that bullet. Now, what do you do if you're in a crisis situation like this? And let me define terms. In the public relations world, the business world, to say something is a crisis, it means there's some form of communication out there that is potentially so negative that it's not just a bad story or a bad day. It could really fundamentally destroy your brand, could actually end up killing your business or doing significant long-term damage. It's not just a one-day blip. That's what a crisis is. And when the president of the United States is saying your drug is horrible to women, causing autism, destroying children's life, that's almost the definition of a clear crisis communication. Fortunately for Tylenol, this president says so many outlandish, crazy, stupid things about health and everything else, it sort of blows over. I think they did the right thing and that they didn't have their CEO come out, put out a video and say the president is wrong, he's a moron, because that would have engaged the president. He would have fought them, attacked them. He would have said, all good MAGA supporters, take your Tylenol out, flush it down the toilet, and trash their website or tweet nasty things about Tylenol. So they didn't poke the bear, so to speak. So that was smart. They tried to stay above the fray. They did put out fact-based information. Normally during a crisis, I'm very much in favor of a CEO really being out there, putting out videos, making themselves available live on social media, even taking questions on tape. I think that's the best thing in most situations for a crisis, to diffuse the crisis, to answer everybody's questions. But one of the things about a crisis is every crisis is a little bit different. You have to look at the context. And the context here is, there's the old saw of don't pick a fight with people who buy ink by the barrel, meaning don't fight the media. This is even beyond that. Don't pick a fight with someone in the media who's the absolute best in the entire world at picking fights in the media and getting attention in the media, and that would be Donald Trump. Whether you love him or hate him, there's simply no disputing he is the world-renowned champion. He's got the big WWE belt for all-time champion at gaining media attention by picking fights in the media and social media. So it does not behoove any company or any product to pick a fight with this guy in most situations. Jimmy Kimmel thing we'll talk about later, that's a little bit different. But for a pure product like this, where people rely on it, it's a very intimate thing to take a product someone made and put it in your mouth and in your body. There needs to be a high level of trust. And Tylenol, again, many of you are too young to remember this, but I well remember it. They were in a crisis. People were poisoned. There was tampering in factories. We're talking about 45 years ago. And people died from it. Ultimately, it was shown it was not tampering by any employee of Tylenol, and it was outside tampering, and they fixed it. They addressed it. They did the responsible thing. They took everything off the shelves, threw it away. They came up with completely new packaging. They came up with a new top, a child-proof, tamper-proof top, and they were strong communicators. They communicated with customers, the public, with the medical community, and they regained trust. So Tylenol has a lot of credibility in the past, but that was a long time ago. Half the country was not alive in 1980, and most of the world was not alive in 1980. So they can't simply rely on that. Again, the fortunate thing for him, for the makers of Tylenol and Kenvue, their parent company, is this doesn't seem to be a hobby horse that President Trump is going to be talking about again and again and again. I mean, so far this week, he's put a lot more attention on talking about the escalator at the United Nations not working than he is on Tylenol. Doesn't mean he couldn't come back to it, but so far he spent more time talking about the fact that his teleprompter didn't work the way he wanted it to at the UN than he has about Tylenol. So I do not anticipate this hurting Tylenol and its parent company in the long term. As mentioned, the stock did go up already. It rebounded slightly by the end of the week by the close of markets on Friday, and it was already down from all-time highs. So I think they are going to overcome this. Because again, if you're going to be giving medical advice, you need a scientific perspective, and that means evidence. Now, the scientific community took some hits during COVID because there was a lot of conflicting information, sometimes information that seemed very contradictory. So there are, I think it's fair to say, more people than ever skeptical of a lot of mainstream science and pharmaceutical companies. We can debate that another day, but there are increasingly people skeptical about anything that comes out of this guy's mouth. Oh, I'm going to get rid of inflation day one. Boycotts, or not boycotts, but tariffs will be good for you. We're seeing how well that's working. So at some point, when it appears that every single thing out of your mouth is a lie, then the next lie doesn't necessarily hurt the person you're lying against. But let's make no mistake about it, the president does have supporters. Depending on what poll you're looking at, between 37% of the country and 42% give him some level of support. So they may take guidance. Now, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to tell you whether or not you should take Tylenol or not. There are pros and cons to Tylenol versus aspirin. For some people, aspirin as a pain reliever causes problems, irritation, sometimes bleeding. There are, according to mainstream medical evidence, some cases where Tylenol is better than aspirin. Some cases aspirin is better than Tylenol. A case could be made, again, I'm not your doctor and I'm not telling you don't take Tylenol. A case can be made that a lot of times human beings get headaches simply because, those of you listening on the podcast, I just paused to pick up a big glass of water. You're not drinking enough water. Now, if you have headaches or pain, don't say, well, TJ said I can't take acetaminophen. He just said drink more water. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I am saying, when it comes to a lot of pains, we as human beings often are destructive. We eat bad food. We do not get enough sleep. We do not drink enough water. We drink too much alcohol. Although ideally, if you're a pregnant woman, you're not drinking too much alcohol. I do think as a general principle, most Americans and a lot of people around the world are a little too quick to grab any pill. I'm not picking on Tylenol. We're a little too quick to say, I don't have to eat healthy food. I don't need to drink water. I can drink sugar water all day long and mochachinos that have 2,000 calories worth of sugar in them. And I can stay up late and not get enough sleep. And I can have that extra cocktail. And if I got a headache in the morning, I'll just pop a pill. I do think that is a genuine problem that gets a lot of trouble. Now, I do want to stress there is no evidence that Tylenol is actually causing autism, but I have seen evidence that people who take Tylenol or any acetaminophen on a regular basis and drink alcohol puts a lot of extra damage on their liver and kidney. Again, I'm not your doctor and I'm not playing one on the internet or on TV or on video, but you may want to check that out if that is one of your habits. I want to say a special hello to our friends joining us today on TikTok. Thank you for joining us, our friends on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Twitch, on X, on YouTube, and all the other social media platforms. If you're one of our new listeners on any podcast platform, thank you so much for listening. And please take a moment to like the show, to follow it, to subscribe to it. There's no charge for subscribing to this show on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or any other platform.